I am live from St. Thomas on today. I am at the lovely, lovely St. Regis property here. Excuse me, not St. Regis, the Ritz Carlton. The Ritz Carlton property here in St. Thomas. And so I'm super excited. Let me make sure the camera angle is as good as possible today. I don't have my normal setup, but hello, and welcome. I'm so excited to talk with you guys today, just about some beautiful work that I have been doing personally, in one of the main areas that I teach about on my channel. And I wanted to share with you guys just some downloads that God has been giving me as we are starting our next cohort. We are going to be for a year talking about manifesting money with God. And so I'm going to be inviting you guys to all sorts of juicy just events and things around that topic. So I'm super excited. But let's go ahead and get started. And if you saw any of the promos for today's lesson, then you know we're going to be talking about basically how I have gone on this almost lifelong journey at this point. I feel like I've been learning about money and building my wealth consciousness since I was about 18 years old intentionally. I was doing it through reading books and stuff like that, but at this stage of life, I'm building my wealth consciousness and my rich girl consciousness at a different level, right? And so I have been literally like finding all of these just different, I would call them like wounds. You know how like if you're playing one of the video games and one of the like shooting video games, and it's like your target is to like kill all the zombies or something like that, right? I feel like with my money wounds and my money story, I have had that story where it was like, okay, people think I'm the zombie, or people think my money life is like the zombies. And when I started digging up, like, hey, what in the world, like, why did I have certain challenges with like receiving money and growing my income and knowing that I was worthy of higher levels of income and different things like that? I remember sitting back and being like, is my money life like the zombies in one of the like online games or something? And there are these people just shooting at it and kind of targeting it, and I can't like get ahead to the next level because it's like the goal is to shoot down your money life, right? And so like just kind of using that analogy, I personally look back at my journey with money, and I really made sure that I grounded myself in what those key wound areas were for my money life. And once I started kind of like opening myself to understand what was going on more with money, once I started like becoming more intentional about looking at my money story, looking at where I had gained certain beliefs about money, looking at the skills that I had or didn't have around earning money, saving money, and growing money. We call that investing. Once I got really intimate with my money, I started to see this significant shift in terms of like how my business was growing, how clients were coming to me, how even my social media is growing at a different rate right now. All because I started to get very, very intentional about healing these money wounds. And so if you understand what I'm talking about, if you are like, girl, yes, this year for me is about clearing up these money wounds, I'm getting my money together this year, then my money containers are the containers for you. So let's talk about what started happening practically when I began allowing other people to like throw money at me, right? When I began to allow God and everything in his world and everything in his universe began to pay me for my services at the rates where I'm like, okay, these are the levels we should get paid. You guys know I always had a provider husband, and so I kind of had that area pretty solid, but the area around like just accepting gifts, accepting money, all of that kind of stuff. What happens when you practically start allowing people to pour the financial resources into your life, right? So these are not tips that I think you guys are like, that are like the most obvious tips, right? When you are really investing in your money journey, the first thing that I saw when I started allowing more money to come into my life, right? Because that's where many of us want that and desire that, but we sometimes get afraid of saying that. I kind of owned it. I was like, no, my desire at this stage is that more money come in than I can even think of, like, right? I just have money pouring in from different areas. And so when I started dealing with my wounds that were blocking the money from coming in, and the money actually started coming in, the wealth consciousness started coming in, the very first thing that I'll say is I thought that it was going to be like this small trickle effect, that like money would come in like just little small parts, or you'll see money in these smaller amounts, because that's what I was used to in my old paradigm cultivating. It was like, okay, you work for $10 an hour or $11 an hour. And so once I started expanding and healing my money wounds, I kind of expected that money would pour in at that same number. Well, what ended up happening was not that. What ended up happening is I began to attract people first who were independently like wealthy. They were magnets at wealth, right? They were attracting money at levels that I just was like, what is this, right? Multiple six figures a month. They were just inordinate things. I would listen to the people that God started to allow to come into my life as examples, which is point number one. When I started allowing others, I opened myself up to the idea of others throwing money into my life. Well, the first thing that God did is he sent me some teachers. He sent me some mentors who were talking about like, oh, I keep $1 million in my savings account, right? And I was like, what? But the bank only insures $250,000, right? Like, what you mean you keep $1 million in your bank account? Or like, oh yeah, I just donated. Who was one of them? She was like, I just donated. Oh, I took up money for what's going on in Russia and all of the war in Ukraine and in Eastern Europe. And I told everybody, every dollar that they raise, I'll match it, right? And she raised $300,000 and she matched it. And when I heard that story, I was like, what in the world? What kind of women am I in community with now? And what I realized is it was God showing me that my inner work around my money wounds had opened up these doors for me, that he opened up the doors before the actual dollars, if that makes sense, because opening up the door for me to know how to handle that wealth, to witness women who had the capacity to handle this wealth with such grace, with such kindness. These are some of the most kind and generous women I have ever met in my life. I feel like he opened the door for me to see the people first, so that I know how to handle the influx that was already my birthright, right? Was already what he had eventually destined me to have, right? It's almost like I'm in time remembering riches, right? My future, my desire is me remembering that, no, I'm supposed to be well provided for in this area from so many places, not just one, right? And so the second thing that I would say that occurred when I started opening myself up to the idea of allowing God and other people to like pour money into my life, and to know that I could be a good steward of it, is I began to see where my practical skills with money were weak, right? So for me, you have strengths and you have weaknesses, and that's all of us. And generally we think about our strengths and our weaknesses only from the perspective of like our gifts or our talents. But you have strengths and weaknesses also in your money life. And so you may be very strong at the area of saving, or you may be a very strong investor. Like you're just naturally, your mind thinks about where you can put money so that it can keep growing. Or you may be like a breadwinner, right? You may be a rainmaker, is what I call. Those are my clients. They're the rainmakers in my legal world. Like you have a high skill set that people is just gonna pay a lot of money for. So you just the rainmaker. Some of you may be really great at helping restore credit or knowing how to manage credit and get it back together. But at whatever stage in the money game, you have strengths and you have weaknesses. And when I open myself up to allowing way more money into my life, and I'm talking about like massive wealth, massive riches, taking flights wherever I wanted to, whenever I wanted to. Well, my weaknesses came up, right? My weaknesses came up. And so one of the things that I've recognized, because even in this stage right now, I'm literally still like navigating some of those weaknesses, right? Like in the middle of God bringing in more wealth, blessing us, blessing my household at that next massive level, I'm like, it's almost highlighting even more what my weaknesses have been in the past. They're like coming back up, right? And what happens is at that stage, easily you can get into the place of where you want to sabotage your money life, or you're moving in that self-sabotaging way. Because look, I'm raising my hand, right? I ain't talking about you right now, I'm talking about me. And I have found myself kind of doing that back and forth dance with self-sabotage because of my weaknesses, right? And in and when you have those weak areas, especially like with me, I have a partner. Like, my husband is not my partner, he's my husband, so he's the leader of our family. And you're building wealth with someone else. Well, you got to account for your weaknesses and their weaknesses, and then it can all get together and be a whole jumbled mess, right? Sometimes. But being able to have the capacity to open yourself up to all of us being human, one, you being human, and the other person being human, and being able to give room for grace as you are letting all of this new money flow in, has been like one of the biggest lessons in my own life, when I've opened up this new allowing with money, this new relationship, this next level relationship with money. And so of course here I am right now, surrounded by money, right? You guys know I'm at the Ritz-Carlton right now in St. Thomas. The property is beautiful. I don't know if you guys can see the ocean. I wanted to share it with you on today, for today's live, because as I am embracing this next level of wealth, I want to embrace it with my audience, and I want to share with my audience, you know, not just where I am on my journey now, but how I've healed my past journey while I still have a desire to do it, right? Because I do have a desire to like help others in this way, and that's why I'm creating these containers and inviting other women, right now mostly women, inviting other women into this sacred healing space where we can be safe and kind of talk about these issues and grid these issues for our different levels of wealth. So the second thing was, I had to make room for my weaknesses when I started allowing more money into my life. One of the things that I also know, going back to point number 2 with your weaknesses, is that if you don't make room for the weaknesses, you just keep like in the game, they just keep shooting you down, right? When you are like only focused on what you're strong at in the money game, but you don't kind of allot for your weaknesses, this is where a lot of people end up having those mental and emotional attacks that lessen your confidence in your ability to manage wealth at high levels, right? So I've had to face that recently, where, okay, you know, we'll be sitting down and we'll be doing a review of our money over like the last year or the last 6 months. Right now we're doing kind of like the last few years. And there were some key places where I missed the mark, right? And having another person that also holds you accountable is like, oh, okay, well, this is where I think you should have gone, Lindasha, instead of deciding this. And I'm like, you know what? You're actually right. I didn't think about it like that. There were other factors that were going on, but that would have been a better money decision for where we're going with our money. And giving yourself the grace and others the grace to make those decisions and judgments, it's going to be the difference between you being stuck in poverty because you can't get over the emotional pain of the weight, the money loss, or the wrong decision, or whatever else, or the error in judgment. It's not so much about like the condemnation of it all, but it is just the recognition that you're human, and having this human experience. If you're gonna master the wealth game, you gotta build your emotional intelligence game as well. And part of that is having a wonderful mindset around your weaknesses. For me, the way that I typically deal with that is I have to sort through things thoroughly and see where I'm really at. And then I have to have other strong people around me, like iron sharpening iron. I have to have other strong people around me. I hope you guys can see me well. The screen seems like it's doing something different, but I have to have other strong people around me as that iron sharpening iron so that I can see where my blind spots are. So that's one of the ways that I have navigated it. And getting in a community where people are not afraid to have these conversations about money. Sometimes you just got to get in a community where they're having positive, high vibrational conversations around money in general. And then from there you can like start to navigate your own individual money life by plugging back into these life-giving communities when it comes to talking about money. Because for most of us, talking about money brings more wounds, right? Like, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to deal with the money. I'm so scared. I'm so angry. Or it causes fights in my relationships. It makes me feel unworthy. The conversation of money brings up so many things about how you feel about yourself. But when you are surrounded by others who are doing the same thing as you, it lets you know that you're connected. Like, oh, I'm not alone. Oh, I'm not the only one that made this mistake. Oh, I'm not the only one that thought like this about this issue with money. And what I want to make sure to do in my community is always have a safe space around the topic of money. And so it's one of the reasons that with my latest offering, I am giving you guys a chance to not just sample Lindasha, because I've been doing a lot of sampling with my work and all of that. And God is just like, it's time out for the samples. You need to give them the meal. They are ready for the meal. And so for me, I have two opportunities that are coming up that I want to share with you guys. I'd love for you to think it over and see if one of these opportunities are like for you. The first one is going to be a year-long container called Manifesting Money with God. Manifesting Money with God. I'm going to literally be gridding a certain like group who is committed to getting to their next level of money with God. I think that this particular cohort, if you're led to come, then you need to come, right? But we will be gearing our money conversations to women who are business owners. They're typically, I think you would be served very well if you're earning in the upper 5 to mid 6 figures with this particular group. I think that what happens is when you get to that middle class relationship with money, it can be very hard to open up your mind. If you're really struggling with money and you're still kind of below $50,000 a year, or still kind of navigating more poverty consciousness, there's other work that you may need to do that is best for you to look at the free content and get your money game up there. But this container will be definitely, if you consider yourself to be in the middle class right now, maybe even moving into upper middle class, and you have a desire to move into that super wealthy world class relationship with money, nothing's wrong with that. I was there. That's the season that I'm leaving, and the season that I toggled back and forth with for a while. So there's nothing wrong with you having desires to move forward more. But I believe that the things that I'll be communicating about over this year will best serve that person. How do we look at taxes? How to not have a wound with taxes, right? Because taxes are a huge money wound for most Americans, unless you're in poverty. There are a lot of benefits to the taxes there, but once you hit that middle class, there are a lot of wounds that we get from taxes. We get a lot of wounds from our employers, not having time off, not dealing with our self-care. And so I will begin to incorporate with you guys how I navigated all of that stuff, and the role of how I navigated it with, my spouse being a wife, being in that position of surrender in your romantic relationship, and your husband being the leader, and the man being the leader in that. And what does that look like sometimes as it translates with your Starbucks habit, or your Target habit, or your shopping habit, or whatever else. How do you navigate healing and responsibility in those areas? So you already have that kind of experience, but you want to heal those wounds that have been brought into your life as a result of those circumstances. We'll be dealing with all of that. The Manifest Money with God, it'll be a year container, and we're meeting twice a month in that container for live coaching calls, and then I'll show up in that container sometimes randomly as well if you decide to move forward there. So that's the first offer. And the second offer is an announcement in Paris. I really want to get back to doing my first intensive my intentions again, and I want the first one to be in Paris next year on Valentine's Day, on the day of love. We're gonna come together. We're gonna celebrate personal love, romantic love, the love of family, just love in general, like being able to forgive your past, finding love for people that you never thought you could forgive, and you move forward there. And also, healing with that. It's going to be a part of the Manifest with God. If you come into Manifest with God, your ticket to Paris is included in the price. You just have to do your own flights and stuff. I can't book your flights or your hotels, but the ticket for the actual event on Valentine's Day is included to my Manifest Money with God. And we're going to be celebrating love, but we're also going to be celebrating a love that is connected to our resources financially. So it will be another Manifest with God theme for our Valentine's Day celebration, about women who are bringing forth next levels of income without sacrificing themselves, without sacrificing who they are. And so you guys save the date for Paris next year, February 14th, 2024. I want you to be in Paris with me, having a great time. And it's going to be a lovely time of us just getting our full lives back into that very high vibrational state. And so the third thing that I would give to you guys before we cut off this live and before we move on to the next part of our day, I know some of you are at work and you will be watching this live later. The third thing that I wanted to say, once I started allowing money into my life and letting God bless the money, letting God surround me with money, right? He can surround me with money. A lot of you, we have trouble with receiving it because of what other people have done. I know I have committed my own wounds in money. You have committed your own wounds in money. And some of this, the third thing that happened to me is I began to notice the areas with my money whereby they weren't like my issues, right? So certain things were, okay, this is your decision, that caused the wound, right? You caused the wound yourself when you, decided, oh, I just want to, bust my budget for something. You said, oh, I don't want to spend this much on a vacation, but you busted your budget. I generally don't do that because I will carry cash for whatever I want to spend sometimes. So I have cash and I'll have that budget there, and I only take a few hundred out whenever I'm doing stuff or whatever my goal is. If I'm shopping, I'll have whatever I'm putting a bag on or the card, and I'll only put that item on. So that helps me with not going over budgets. I really, in terms of moving in that next phase of your wounds, your number 3 is dealing with like the ancestral wounds and the gender wounds and the stuff that's put on you before you're even born, right? It is the conversation that you are having about money and the feelings that you're having about money that are not your own, right? That's the third thing that I began to notice. I was like, okay, I got my stuff. Like, okay, that's Lindasha. But what is all of this other like heavy energy, this heavy emotional weight on me around money that I ain't even got that problem? That's not even me, right? I would say it's the cultural, like, ancestor gender wound almost for me is what I had to sort through. And I really wasn't even made aware of this issue with money until I started saying, I welcome more money into my life. God, you can bless me with more money, however, right? And it's like these eyes open up. Like my eyes just kind of like, what in the world is going on, right? I'll take the people who are beautiful and, the ladies who are telling me how they spend all their great money, and my mentors and the women that you've given me in my life who can show me how to hold capacity for all of this. But I ain't signed up for this part, right? I didn't sign up to be dealing with dark energy that ain't even my itch. That's not even my stuff. But that showed up when I started asking for more money, because money is energetically, it's everywhere. It connects all of us. So right now, you're watching me, whether you're watching me live or you're watching the replay, money is allowing us to sit here and have this conversation with each other, with me in St. Thomas and you wherever you are, right? And so we have my iPhone that is over $1,000 that is connecting us. We have the dress that I'm wearing. You're seeing me right now. So I'm wearing a dress. I'm wearing earrings. I have on makeup. My hair was done by my stylist, right? Last week. St. Thomas want to have me freezy out here, but that's all right too. but money is literally embedded in everything that we do. This property was built before I paid the whatever was required to get here, right? The flights and all of that. Somebody had already invested a lot of money to build this. And when they built it, I was like, oh, yes, yes, St. Thomas. I'm going to go with my friends. I've met a couple of friends here. I'm going to go with my friends and we're going to do girly stuff and talk about life and business and, enjoy each other and reconnect in our femininity. But money was involved in all of it. Right now, you're sitting on a chair, you're wearing clothes. Money is involved in every part of our lives. And so when I started being open to God blessing me with more, when he opened up like cultural wounds that I was like, I don't want to deal with this. Okay, how do Americans feel about money? Why are we so negative about money, but we're the richest country in the world? All of this stuff started coming up in my money experience, these wounds a bit that I had to start dealing with. And that I'm really excited to coach you guys on and coach you through, because I would be dealing with my money wounds and I'd come out high vibrational, did my inner work around money, only to meet someone who was complaining about how expensive eggs were, how expensive bread is. And it's like, it's a real thing. And when my friends and I got together over the last few days, we were just talking about it and we were like, oh my God, YouTube. We had so many YouTube moments. Like, this is happening to YouTube, because we're all very intentional about our vibration around money and our self-care and our self-love and our self-respect. And that's what we bond on. And so we were having all these YouTube moments about the money and what it represented and what it was doing. Hi, hello, how are you? And so at the end of the day, it's one of those things that you are literally dealing with the gender wound. If you are a woman, then at the end of the day, you are also looking at and dealing with, okay, this is how men typically think about money. As a woman, we're earning all of this money that's less. We don't earn this amount, and we only earn this amount of pennies to the dollar that a man earns. Like, all of these narratives that we hear. And when I started showing up and presenting myself, these things just kind of kept popping up, if not even within me, with the women that I was coaching. Like, you would be trying to deliver a coaching message, but you're hitting one of their wounds. And so I had to sit down and work through the gender wounds that we have as women. And then culturally, of course, you have your own racial wounds that come into this. And being an African-American woman coming from the Deep South, you guys can imagine being the great-great-granddaughter of enslaved Africans. You just, if the health of money is up here and you're coming from a place of deep poverty in your ancestral wounds, it's like jumping off a cliff and hitting the bottom and then someone telling you got to climb up. So there were tons of wounds around worthiness there and different things. And so my 4-minute mile, my thing that was able to have me jump out of a lot of those wounds has been my relationship with other people. And it's one of the reasons that I know I'm sitting here right now and I'm sharing this with you and I'm opening up, how I navigated all of these different spaces, the role of humility in these spaces, being grounded and practical. When life just is lifing in other ways and it starts to affect your money and you're like, wait, I didn't even recognize I was unconscious about spending in this way or saving in that way. And also the beautiful aspect about money that says when you make the decision that you're going to earn more and be of high service to God, how he begins to open the doors, right? How now when I said I wanted to start bringing in millions a year, I'm having $1 million conversations almost every day. I'm literally surrounded by millionaires now. So to go from where I was with my wounds and into the place where I'm manifesting a mansion and millions, the thing about that is it all happened because I made a decision, despite all of the drama in the background of life, that somehow when you allow God to speak through all of this stuff and you hold your own vibration, your own confidence there, God begins to raise the people around you. Everybody wants to now raise their vibration with money, and the ones that don't just kind of fall off, right? But you guys learn how to work with each other and connect with each other in a healthy way, whereby you're strengthening your money connections with each other and you're strengthening a more positive vibration around money with each other, which is ultimately my goal, which is ultimately what I want you ladies who are feeling drawn to this work, you're feeling magnetic to what I'm talking about. I want you guys to literally be a part of us up leveling the conversations around money and our vibrations around money by becoming aware of this stuff and then deciding to do something with it, right? Deciding that you're gonna allow God to pour more money into your life. And when He pours more money into your life, that you are going to be ready to know where to put it, where you are inviting it in constantly. Your money is ever growing from an income standpoint. You have it where money loves to stay with you, aka we call that savings, but money loves to stay with you. And when money leaves, you're investing it in something intentional, whether it's your personal development, updating your wardrobe for the new role that God has blessed you with. If that's how more money comes into your life, you're investing it and growing it so that the money just keeps growing. You keep elevating in experiences. You keep connecting to more and more wonderful people. You keep finding your high vibe tribe. You keep not allowing money to stop you from doing something that you want to do. You keep having more peace in money within yourself and also in your relationships with others, whether it's your romance or whatever else. You are attracting provision in so many ways that you don't need just one provider or two providers, or you don't have to feel like it's only you, right? That provision is all around you, and provision has been made for you from when you come into the awareness that you're ready to up-level your money consciousness. So those are 3 things that I have learned. I am inviting you to Paris. Yes, come. The links will be in this YouTube video. Probably within the next 20 minutes, the link should be there. And then if you're watching it after, you'll have it. But Manifest with God 1-year container. We'll meet on Zoom twice a month. We will start literally the week after my birthday. So we start Manifest with God this month. And you'll be able to see all of that in the course dashboard when you sign up. And then if you're joining us with Paris, we're going to have a full day in Paris on Valentine's Day. And this will be right now I'm announcing Paris here to my YouTube crew. If you watch the video, you are going to get the best price for the tickets. So if you see that ticket in Paris and you even think you want to go, grab it, because the price is going to go up. That's going to be the least amount that we're going to offer the ticket to Paris right now, because some of you guys have been waiting on that. So I appreciate you. I love you. I'm wishing you all of the best, abundance and success with money, because I'm doing it myself, and I'm doing the inner work myself, and I'm working through my own wounds and all the stuff that we talked about. And I just want you guys to have a wonderful day live from St. Thomas. Bye-bye. Enjoy. Thank you for stopping in.